broadcast on YouTube. And pretty soon I'm going to take my things over to Spotify and iTunes. What's up, YouTube people? Where you at? Where you at? Where you at? They try to slow your man down, but, I'm a Marine. I adapt, improvise, overcome. No matter what happens tonight, I'm going to be here. And after I do this, I'm going to post this not only on this page, but I'm going to post it on my other page. For whatever reason, I was clowning around with one of my Facebook friends, and you know how we tease each other. And I said something, and they said I violated community standards somehow again. So you can't make jokes. You can't make any jokes on Facebook unless you're a Republican, and But all of the stuff that they're doing in Congress, his behind was sitting in front of Congress for inciting stuff. But it's the second time he came. Well, no, I'll take that back. This is the fourth or the fifth time that he came at me. So where you at, people? Where you at? I see a few of my people on Facebook. I was waiting to see if some of my people was going to come over here on YouTube. But I'm going to give them a couple minutes, then I'm going to go ahead and get started. It's 7:30. I know how you people are. You got to get out that little school bus. You got to find your helmet. Then you got to spit out the crayons and stop licking windows and the paint chips and all of that nonsense. Come on in, get your seat. Pull up a chair. Yeah. So how's everybody doing? My people are not used to seeing me here, so I'm going to give them a chance to see the live notification on Facebook before I get started. So what's up, YouTube? How y'all doing, people? How y'all doing? How you doing? How you doing? Make sure you go to my YouTube, click on my link I'm going to post after the show, and go to my YouTube channel. Make sure you share it, subscribe, give me some thumbs up, la-da-da, la-di-da, la-di-dee-da-da, all right? Right on, right on, right on, right on, right on. So, that's what's happening. Doing good? Yeah, you better be, you better be, better be, better be. So, there we go. Slowly. Now, some of these YouTube, my Facebook people, y'all should know already. I'm going to be here come hell or high water. So if this is your first time tuning in, other folks that's here every week, kind of bear with me for a minute. I know this might be a little redundant to you guys, but I'm going to tell some of my first timers. I usually do this show every week around this time. And when I do the show, I broadcast simultaneously on Facebook Live as well as YouTube Live. So everybody that's here tonight, I'm going to invite you over and over again to click on the link, go to my YouTube. I'm going to post after the show. Go to my YouTube page, subscribe, give me some thumbs up, and share the show. This is all about positive. So I'll get started in a minute here, but I'm just giving a couple people a chance to come on in, get a seat. I know it's like some people's first time, so you know how it is. You know how it is. Yeah. So I've been doing this show for 2 years, and the show has grown. I would like to say that I've gotten better at the show, but I'll leave that up to you. All right, let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and get started. Go ahead, get started. Go ahead, get started. Go ahead, get started. I see some people are going to be late coming in. Some people are going to dip in, dip out. They're not going to give me true numbers anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I want to say good evening and welcome to the show. I always start off the show by saying thank you for spending your Thursday nights with me. I'm truly, truly humble of all the things you could be doing. You choose to be here with me, uh, quenching your thirst on some knowledge. I call this my Thirsty Thursday night. So come on in, take a seat, get down with it. You understand? I'm going to give you a little bit of this, a little bit of that. The basis of my show is primarily current events. If you know anything, my background is in both healthcare and public policy, and that just seems to be where our country is kind of jumping off. The name of my show is called Omit da Logic. This shit makes no sense, but I got something to say. So it must be true. My name is Hank Batiste. I'm your host tonight, and I always talk about the voices in my head. Tonight, the voices in my head are catching a second wind, and I'm feeling a resolve. After receiving both the invitation to continue to broadcast my show on Facebook and renew community standards from both Facebook and YouTube, this morning, I got ready to broadcast my announcement about the show tonight, and I found out that Facebook saw fit to suspend me for 30 days. Me and one of my Facebook friends, we messing around, and you know how we said, watch me, and it's a black thing, it's a people thing. You know, we talk about hitting each other, but it's never about violence. But anyway, Facebook took that as an opportunity, as they have in the past, any opportunity to suspend me because they don't like what I have to say. But I had the second page. This was my alter ego, the Renaissance man. So I just put it in effect and renewed it. So Rennie is my alter ego, all right? It goes back to when I was in high school. I was really inspired by Gordon Parks. Gordon Parks became one of my heroes because he was a photographer for Life magazine. He did both fashion photography and he did these incredible still lifes of, places like Chicago, the Midwest, the Plain States, New York, et cetera, et cetera. So I was just, and he was one of the reasons why I started taking pictures. Then I found out that he was a concert pianist and he wrote the story for Shaft. So all of this, I called him a modern day back then, a 70s Renaissance man. And when I started thinking about some of the things that I wanted to do, back then I had a music instructor, Ms. Bush. Ms. Bush told me, she says, Baptiste, you're a good musician, but you'll never be a great musician because you've got too many things that you try to do. So you're going to be a jack of all trade and master of none. And I wanted to prove to her that I could master anything I put my mind to. And with that, I started taking up and pursuing some of my other talents. So I wrote a little bit, I did some artwork, and I just did whatever caught me. My mom used to say, one week you want to be Bruce Lee, the next week you want to be Muhammad Ali, then you want to box, and then you want to play trombone, then you want to play bass, and all of that takes money. So one of my instructors back then started calling me a Renaissance man. I think it was Mr. Bennett. Henry Bennett was our drama instructor. And he saw a lot of the things that I was doing. And instead of discouraging me, he encouraged me. So shout out to the mighty GWC, George Washington Carver, Senior High, the Rams. And I'm just kind of freestyling, giving you guys some ideas, waiting for some people to come on. But let's go ahead and get started with the show. Let me just say this. This podcast is my interpretation. Through the week, I look at current events. I look at things that spark my interest, and then I research them ad nauseum. Then I put together a show. And 9 out of 10 times here lately, that show winds up not being a show that I do at Thursday nights, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 p.m. Central. Shameless plug. But I use things like the BBC, CNN, MSNBC. I even look at Fox and some of the local and world news to get different views. And then I come to my own conclusion. So this is not backed or supported by Facebook, nor is it really supported by YouTube. But this is my spin on it. Like I told you, omit the logic because this shit really makes no sense. Tonight we're going to talk about a couple things. We're going to talk about a little bit. Last week I talked about violence, and I was planning on doing something else. I wanted to do the show that I had planned on doing last week, but then a couple things happened. And let me just go off script for a minute. Monday, General Colin Powell passed, and I posted it, and I was really surprised that it was a small ripple. When I think about all the things that this man did, I was really blown away. So, General Powell, rest in peace. Enough about that. But I was doing the show last week, and I was planning on moving on, but then they found the remains of what they think is Brian Laundrie, the boyfriend of Gabby Petito. They found it in the park that they have been searching for the last 6 weeks. Like I say, this shit makes no sense. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. Then we're going to talk about Congress and how inept they are when it comes to doing what we elected them to do. So I think we need to look at things like term limits. I think we definitely need to look at campaign contributions and how it affects the performance of Congress. So that's something else we're going to talk about. Lastly, we're going to talk about some of the co-conspirators of the big lie, the insurrection, and I call it a failed coup attempt. We're going to talk about it because I say the coup continues, and it's going to keep on going like that until the people that conspired with delusional Donnie are brought to justice. I understand with so many twisted individuals following delusional, despicable Donnie Trump that they're circling and trying to hurt everybody around him, but they're scared to go for him. And I understand part of it is that old saying, if you shoot for the king, make sure you don't miss. But the other part of that is there's so many twisted people, and it's only about a third of his followers. But imagine if all of those people who are armed and how they get, that's a whole nother discussion. I think that they're doing things in our communities as we speak. I think they're doing some offhanded, covert operations in the community. But I think if he is jailed, if he is convicted, I think there's really going to be some problems. And that civil unrest is what frightens Congress most. So tonight's show is really called Out of Order. I give you my disclaimers. When I make these predictions, 9 out of 10 times I keep telling you, my Creole powers, I hope they're wrong. But most of the forecasts that I have made have come to fruition. Most of the things that I say would happen have happened. So I sit up here week in, week out with a heavy head and the burden on my shoulder. I'm not responsible because I want you to know what I know, but nonetheless, with every blessing, there's an associated curse. Tonight's show is called Out of Order. Let's omit the logic. This shit makes no sense. My name is Hank Batiste. Let's do this. First up, this week in This Shit Makes No Sense, Brian Laundrie. Fuck out of here. His parents called the FBI agents and decided to go back to the park that they've been searching for the past 6 weeks. And his dad's name is supposed to be Chris Laundrie. I say his nickname must be Mark Furman, because just like Mark Furman did during the OJ case, when there was a slew of cops all over the Brentwood property, the only person that found discriminating evidence was Mark Furman. Well, Chris Laundrie, Brian Laundrie's dad, veered away from law enforcement, went off to this area, and he just happened to stumble upon some private property that belonged to Brian. And it led to them finding some remains that they won't confirm could be Brian Laundrie just yet. So that's the one thing I was wrong about. I said at this point, Brian was out of the country, in some country with a non-extradition treaty. So I was wrong. When I'm wrong, I'm going to say I'm wrong. So Dad goes off. All of these professional investigators and detectives and law enforcement and FBI and sheriffs and county, the dad finds this stuff. Instead of bringing the cops to where the personal effects are, the dad picks it up and brings it to law enforcement, thereby contaminating it. Then the Senate attorney, the family attorney, tried to explain it. He said that the dad saw the stuff and there were news reporters close by. So to keep them from messing with it, he decided to pick it up and bring it to the police. Wink, wink. Fuck out of here. Now, law enforcement is saying publicly what I've been saying on this show for the last 5-6 weeks, that the family should be prosecuted. At first I said for aiding and abetting. One person went as far as to say, one law enforcement person went as far as to say the parents should be prosecuted as accessories after the fact in the demise of the murder of Gabby Petito. I don't know if that's going to happen. I'd really like to see it happen, but I would like them to be charged. The other thing I'd like to see them be sued for every dollar, all of these resources that we have expended. And when I say we, I'm talking about primarily the people of Florida, in the state of Florida. But it doesn't just stop there, because you've had law enforcement agencies from around both federal and around the country. So they should be given that check to pay that. They should be fined that plus whatever the civil suit is going to be. I would like to see them bankrupted and put in jail, honestly. And I'm not a vindictive person, but I'm a father with 3 kids. 3 daughters. I've got 3 daughters, 3 sons, but I feel some kind of way about my daughters. I love my sons. I really, really love my sons. And my daughters, I think, could take care of themselves. But I have an idea how I would feel if it were my child. especially if it were my daughter. Remember a few weeks back, I said that Brian used Gabby's debit card to buy a phone and then left that phone to throw law enforcement off his tail or off track while he did whatever he did. So let's say, for the sake of argument, that these remains are Brian Laundrie's and he killed himself, or he was killed out in the wilderness. He got the chance to pick and choose how he was going to die. Gabby didn't have that choice. She didn't have that luxury. So the parents, I think he came home. I think he told his mom and dad what happened or what he did. I think they got a lawyer for him. The lawyer says, well, what are you going to do? Here's what we're going to do. Let's wait and see if they find her. If they find her, then we need to do this, this, and this, and this, and this. So they started building up these, first an alibi, and then gave him time to escape. Whether he went someplace else and then he decided to come back because this was his place of solitude, and being in the woods is what he enjoyed. So he picked this, or whether karma found him, be it rattlesnake or a cottonmouth water moccasin or an alligator, a crocodile, or bear, or somebody else with a 357. Whatever happened to him, he had the opportunity, the luxury of choosing how he was going to leave this world. He took that from Gabby. She was murdered. That's all I got to say about that. Let's move on. This shit makes no sense. This week we see coming to fruition, coming to a head, what I call a showdown in Congress. And everything about the showdown is out of order. First of all, we see Trump's chief co-conspirators, these four guys, being issued subpoenas by Congress, and they refusing to cooperate. And at the top of that list is Steve Bannon. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But first, I want to talk about this whole infrastructure and Biden's Build Back Better plan. Because now what's happening, I said a few weeks ago, that Sinema, I did this research and I found out that Kristen Sinema is being backed by Big Pharma, or the pharmaceutical companies. In the midst of all of this back and forth negotiations in Congress, she decides to go off and campaign. Why did she do that? Because that gave her an opportunity to receive campaign funding from these big corporations. So now at the 11th hour and 37th minute, she is saying that she will not back any legislation that increases corporate taxing. Now, I said all along that if first it was Manchin. Well, seeing what Manchin did, somebody pulled her coattail and whispered in her ear that the same power that Manchin has, you have, even though you're a freshman in the Senate. So she got bolder and bolder and bolder. So much so that 5 of her staffers, her veteran staffers, decided today that they would quit because they're on the inside and they're saying what I've been saying. The people that she's representing is not the people of Arizona. It's not the people of her district. It's big corporations that are paying her meal ticket to keep her behind in Congress. So what I think they should do, I think the people of Arizona should start passing a petition that forces the governor of the state of Arizona to do the same thing that they did in California and have a recall. Because otherwise, she's not up for re-election until 2024. So she has 3 more years to muck things up. The other thing I said, that Sinema is a closet Republican because she's acting more like a wolf in sheep's clothing, and she's doing the Republicans' dirty work. So the last thing I said, and I'm going to say it again because I want to reiterate it, Biden and the Democratic Party should pull her in and say, since you are representing Big Pharma, as soon as we get this passed, I will pull up behind in the office and I would say, since you're representing Big Pharma and major corporations and you don't want to see any taxes levied against them, we're going to go after them again. And if you're not on board, you will not see one red cent. You will not receive one campaign dollar when it comes to your re-election. And they should start mounting a campaign now to get her out of there so that the person that's going to run against her will have the name recognition and will have a treasure chest to take her behind down. So if they do that, it's going to send a message that if you don't work for the Democratic Party, if you don't work for the people, the constituents that elected you, then this is the price that you're going to have to pay. We have lobbyists, people. Lobbyists are paid millions of dollars and pay millions of dollars to Congress anyway, to make sure that their interests come before Congress. But this goes beyond lobbying. This is a direct conflict of interest. And Stevie Wonder, shit, Ray Charles is dead and he can see it. So something has to be done to stop these corporations from infecting the elected officials. We could talk about term limits. We could talk about campaign funding and this, that, and the other. But right now, we need an immediate plan. That's all I got to say about that. Let's move on. Bannon. Bannon knew about the coup. Bannon knew about the coup. All along, Trump had been saying, just wait. Just wait. Come to DC. Just wait. And it seems like either he was in on the planning or he was in on the plan. Because the day before, on January the 5th, Steve Bannon on his radio had the audacity to say, it won't be what you think it's going to be. It's going to be something. Matter of fact, his exact words was, it's going to be hell. So he knew what was going to happen. He had a direct hand in it and planning it. And he was under the misguidance that somehow this would come to fruition sometime before Trump left office, and he would be given some type of immunity of forgiveness. Now, before we get too excited, let me explain something to you. The only thing and the only reason these guys are holding out, and this is why I do what I do right here every week. The 2022, the midterm elections are so important because if the Democrats keep on mucking things up and they lose the majority in the House, if they lose this slim majority that they supposedly have with two closet Republicans by the name of Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema, what's going to happen is the new Congress is going to erase all of these congressional investigations that are going on now into this failed coup attempt on January the 6th. They're going to go ahead and they're going to dismiss. So let's say, for the sake of argument, today Bannon was found guilty of contempt and failure to cooperate with Congress. But Congress doesn't have the power to prosecute him. So they send this information that says we have this evidence to the Attorney General. That's Merrick Garland. And he decides whether or not a special prosecutor or whether they're going to prosecute him for criminal charges. He cannot impose any type of people. He was a private citizen, so he's not privy to anything that the president and Biden is not even going to enforce this for Trump. So Bannon doesn't have a leg to stand on, but it sends a clear-cut message to the other three co-conspirators. If Bannon is prosecuted, these other guys are going to fall in line. Then we're going to see what this personification of evil called Steve Bannon is made of, whether or not he's willing to go to jail for Trump. That's going to tell a story. Tune in tomorrow. It's not going to be what you think it's going to be. Matter of fact, strap in. It's going to be hell. Those were Steve Bannon's words on January the 5th, the day before the failed coup attempt, the day before the attempted coup to keep Joe Biden from being declared the next president. While all of these people were converging on Washington, they were listening to this man on the radio who said, tune in tomorrow. Matter of fact, strap in, because it's going to be hell. We have to hold them accountable. We have to send a message that nobody is above the law. And the next thing they have to deal with is these co-conspirators with these congressional pins on their lapel. Those Kevin McCarthy's on the day hiding under, those Jim Jordans on the day of the failed coup hiding under the desk. And now them saying these were not domestic terrorists. These were patriots. Folks, this shit makes no sense. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut it short because Biden is about to come on and do his press. Well, he's supposed to do, I guess, a town hall meeting in Baltimore. So my people in B-more, show up and show out. Ask some questions and hold these folks accountable. That's all I got for you tonight. Folks, go to my YouTube channel, click on the link, give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and share. Share. We need more positive because we got to keep people engaged and energized. I was about to come up with a new Jesse word, engagerized. These 2022 elections are less than 11 months away. We have to make sure that we hold a majority. Matter of fact, we have to make sure that we increase the majority, especially in the Senate, by at least 2 seats. The Republicans have more seats up for re-election than does the Democrats. But the Republicans have been relentless as outside influences, China, Russia, et cetera, and making sure that we have this chaos that's called CONGRESS, so that the Dems will lose, and when they lose, we lose. That's all I got for you tonight. Go to my YouTube, give me a thumbs up, share it. See you next week right here on this very same YouTube and this very same Facebook address. You understand? Same Baptiste time, same Baptiste place. As always, imparting. My name is Hank Batiste, the Renaissance Man, alias the Rennie. My show is called Omit da Logic. This shit makes no sense, but I got something to say. And as always, imparting. I wish you love. I wish you peace. Hair grease. I'm out of here. Good night, folks. If you just came in, look to my Facebook page. I'm going to post this, and then I'm going to post to YouTube so that you can go to my YouTube and sign up. I'm out. Folks, I'm going to do that next week. I thank you guys for coming in.